Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BuzzStream Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Nero, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by John Shehata. John's the CEO and founder of NewzDash, where you might know him most, but he's also the founder of the News and Editorial SEO Summit, NESS, and the former global VP of audience development at Condé Nast, and something I want to get into, so it's important to call that out. John, how you doing? Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, what's up, Vince? Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so today I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about the changing landscape of digital news. Before I get into it, I just want to remind everyone to like and subscribe. The more you can share this stuff, interact with it, the more I can have great guests on like John. So John, I want to jump right into this, but before I do, I guess it's important to give people some background on what NewzDash is.
Thanks, Vince, for asking. NewzDash is a real-time news SEO platform. There is a lot of great SEO tools out there that I have been using for years, but a few years ago, back in 2014, I figured out none of them actually satisfy the real-time needs of news publishers. I'm a software developer or software engineer, actually, originally. So I start putting some code together, and that became this a big platform. So we try to help publishers boost their visibility and traffic from all the Google surfaces like Google News, Google Search, and Google Discover. So that's what we are focusing on.
Yeah. And, from a digital PR perspective, I think for me, it was super helpful to just kind of understand the rankings, the most trafficked news sites. I know you kind of have it broken up into industry. I think that's important to understand. And we'll get into that now a little bit more throughout our talk here, but I think it's more important than ever to understand what sites are getting the most visibility and how you can kind of leverage that to help build your brand. But before that too, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your previous experience. I know you said you're a software developer, but you also spent 7 years up until 2022, it looks like, at Condé Nast in SEO audience development. I'd be really curious to understand how you've seen the media landscape change since you've left that job in 2022.
Oh, absolutely. So it's looking back at my career, right? I have been doing news SEO for about 23, 24 years. And I started in local, I moved to national and then international. And then I left in-house, and I'm managing our own software platforms. And I think we are at a pivotal point of time where news industry overall is having a lot of challenges, way more than ever so before with the AI. Like the news industry and technology has been always not on good terms all the time. Like if you go, and this is a long time ago, but when the whole internet started, newspapers was oh, this is a fad, who want to read news online, right? I was no, people want to buy the newspaper, right? And then slowly they adapted to that and they saw a lot of traffic, right? I was okay, this is good. But then bloggers and citizen journalism, it's blogs, these are not real journalists. Will not be a thing, right? And they were they consider the bloggers and citizen journalism and all of stuff is bad, right? And then it became a thing. It will be huge. And then you see social media. It's who wants to read stuff, news on social media? And then Facebook was sending them a ton of traffic, and they embraced that. And then Facebook traffic went away, and then Google Discover came on. I was oh, ton of traffic, So they keep embracing that. But now we come to a point with AI, right? Where, AI is taking all their content, training their models, providing users with answers. A lot of times there is no citations back to news publishers, and it's becoming challenging for them, right? So that traditional model where, hey, Google, take my content, but send me the traffic where I can monetize and sell against. Now that kind of model or ecosystem has been broken. Business Insider laid off 21% or 29% of their staff yesterday or the day before. A part of that, when you read the memo, is AI, right? Where search is becoming threatened, all the traffic. It's a business really based on traffic. And the second thing, AI is also helping them becoming more efficient. So they don't need as many people as they used before. So I think media over the last 6 months to 12 months has changed drastically from all the years I worked before. Sorry, long answer, but I wanted to give you the history of news and technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. And you touched a little bit on some of the pain points, I think, in the industry and some of the kind of worries and stresses, at least from the SEO world and the PR world. This idea that some of these bigger sites, these bigger news publications are losing traffic due to AI. And I saw this, I forget who posted this on LinkedIn the other day, and it kind of shocked me a little bit and had me stressing a little bit. But this idea that, like, digital PR and PR in general, we need news to survive for us to be able to do our job, right? So, like, do you see a point where news sites are going to start closing down? I mean, is that something that has been a concern? I mean, it sounds like you've been through a lot of these cycles in the past, but is that a real concern nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. I think was it DigiDay or some other publication? I just recently, 2 days ago, I wrote an article about the 11 immediate actions that news publishers need to take to compete in an AI first era, right? This is a whole new thing, right? And I think one of the stats that I put there that DigiDay predict that many publishers will go under in the next 12 to 18 months or will consolidate. You need to be a part of the bigger group to consolidate to actually like combat this kind of change. I think local publishers will remain, but it's going to be harder for them to drive revenue. But I think all the publishers in between, there are not like, brand driven publisher where like, people like, hey, I want to read New York Times. I want to read the Market Watch. Like this is very specific, like brand strong publishers. The ones in the middle, right? The people don't know the brand or don't care what is the brand. They just getting like, X news or entertainment news or whatever news. I think that these will struggle a lot. So there are going to happen a lot of consolidation and a lot of publishers that might go on.
Yeah. You also wrote a great post recently about this idea of like Google ranking big brands over small brands, Google preferring big brands over small brands. I was at Google Search Central. I think you were as well. I think that's might have been where we met, but Danny Sullivan, kind of debunked that fact, although it sounds like recently it has come back and maybe they said they do prefer big brands, but not, but by choice. It's just kind of happened to the way they built the algorithm. So I guess the question here is, do you think that is still the case? Number one, like do you think that big brands are still going to have in this AI world, do you think big brands are still going to have that edge over the smaller brands?
Oh, absolutely. I think more and more, I mean, when Google tells you something, right, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying they are misleading us. What I'm saying is their ultimate goal is their users and their business. That's the ultimate goal. User satisfaction and hey, it's a business, they need to make money, right? And a lot of times when they say, hey, we're not inherently biased towards big brands, they are actually true. But the algorithm itself, all the characteristics of big brands are built into the algorithm. So naturally, big brands start showing up. So when they talk about like user behavior and click data, people like to click, recognizable brands. I see, I don't know, brand one and brand two, and I know brand one more than brand two. I'm more likely to click brand one because I'm aware of it or I trust it, right? So all of these different things, right? Big brands have more resources. So they're writing more content and it's fresher and stuff like this, right? So it's the algorithm favor them more than smaller brands that write 2 or 3 stories a day versus a big brands that write 300 stories a day, right? So yes, inherent, like they not designing something to say, no, go find the big brands and these are what you're ranking. But the way how the algorithm function, inherently it favors all big brands. And I think this is going to continue with AI overview, LLMs and all that stuff, right? So links might not be a part of the algorithm, but there are authority metrics for all LLMs, right? And being a big brand, a trusted brand, is one of them. So I think, yes, this will continue to be the case with LLM. And I think that's why PR, right, or branding in general is becoming more important than anything else, right? You have to get your brand out there, right? If it's TV, if it's billboards, if it's PR, you have to get the branding. It's becoming very important in the new era that we.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw a study from Ahrefs. I think they published yesterday, a few days ago. We're recording this May 30th, which saw AI overviews had such a high exposure in AI overviews. There was a very high correlation to brand mentions.
Yeah.
And obviously, there was some branded search traffic, although not as much. Links actually weren't, DR, their domain rating wasn't actually as highly correlated, but brand mentions, yeah, were. So I guess my next question here, John, is, putting on the other side, the digital PR hat, the kind of SEO hat, is there a strategic element to this? Like, are you better off pitching just the bigger brands and forgetting about the smaller brands because the bigger brands are getting the most exposure? That's where, is your brand mentioning, if you're mentioned in a brand like New York Times, is it worth more, quote unquote, worth more than a mention in a, local pub? What's your take on this?
I think it depends, right? I always like to start with the analysis, right? First, is like, because every niche is different, right? So, if you are publishing something that, like generic or like applies to like major segment of the audience, maybe big brands will be the ones, right? And you track that as like, hey, we're working on this brand. We work with a lot of PR firms and we do like either like brand tracking and stuff like this, where you take a brand X and we say, hey, this brand X that has a lot of news about it, right? These are the top 10 or 100 news publishers that own that conversation. So now by knowing that these are the top 10 brands that own the conversation, you want to focus your efforts in getting there, right? Organically or, not so organically, so, but maybe your focus on something very niche, and maybe that niche thing is not covered by the big brands. Maybe it's covered by very specific niche publications or circulations, right? Maybe this is the right place to be. So it really depends on the brand and what you're trying to push that. I think big publications are great for broader reach, right? But smaller ones are great for niche targeting, right? So I think it's a mix between the two. And I think by understanding who owned that conversation, who is the most visible and authoritative brands for the topic you're talking about, I think that makes the huge difference.
Are there tools? Does NewzDash help you do that, to uncover the brands that are talking about a specific topic?
Yes, absolutely. So it's not a product that's available, like if you go to the site and see it, but we do it for a few PR firms where they say, hey, John, we have this brand, I don't know, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever the brand is, or we have this personality, right? Elon Musk or whatever, right? I'm just giving like generic examples, right? So in that case, what we do is we identify the topic layer or the topic ID for this Elon Musk or Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Honda or whatever, right? And then we start tracking every piece of news that is being published about them and what this targets kind of keywords. And then we track the keywords for you and we tell you, do you know what? Okay, when it comes to keywords, like people searching for these keywords around your brand, in news, these are the top 100 publishers that own the conversation. So this is great for like media ads or media buys, right? It's like, hey, we want to put ads around our brand. These are the top 10 brands that most of the people go to when they are searching for your brand in news, or there's a lot of news about it. It's about pitching, writers or, thinking of like new ideas that you can pitch them and stuff like this. So that's what we do. Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, a tool like that sounds like it's more valuable now than ever. I know SparkToro does something like that where, you can look through, but yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see like a lot more of those types of tools coming out in the near future, given this push for brand building and brand awareness and aligning yourself with brand and topical authority. That's really interesting.
I just want to give a shout out to my friend Rand. He built an amazing tool, SparkToro. And I think SparkToro and NewzDash in a way complementary, where our focus is mainly search and news. Their focus is beyond search and news, right? Where are all the different platforms that your target audience will be there? So I think both of them are complementary, and it's a great tool, by the way.
Yeah. Definitely check out SparkToro if you haven't, listeners. Yeah, the Rand is great. Build a great tool, and they recently kind of came up with a 2.0 version. I think it's even more powerful than ever.
Yeah.
John, piggybacking off of my last question, in your article, you talked about the big brands getting more exposure, and you had a couple tips in there about how the smaller sites can get more exposure. And one of the things you talked about was optimizing for brand loyalty. I think that is something that obviously, like as a strategist, putting on your strategy hat, if you're digital PR, if you're an SEO, that's going to become more and more important these days. So I was wondering if you have any good examples of brands that you see really building that brand loyalty and how they're doing that effectively.
Good examples. I think New York Times, for example, comes to mind. They have a very strong, loyal audience. Their newsletters, like I look in my articles, let me define first what's loyalty, and then we can talk about it, right? It's like you are converting one and done audience to direct audience and loyal audience, right? So you're building a direct relationship with them, right? People finding you in search and social and other platforms are great, but they come visit your site, they read something and they leave, right? So you need to say, and this is what I have been doing at Condé Nast for like 3 years. My last 3 years at Condé Nast is like, how can I convert these one and done to direct type of audience, right? Especially with third party data and all that stuff, right? So one thing is like you have a great newsletter program or email program that people can sign up to, right? And they sign up when they see value. Right? It's a trade-off. I give you my email, you give me value. Okay. So you need to have value proposition. Why would people sign up for your newsletter? Right? You are connecting with these audience in the right platforms, right? It's like maybe social or Reddit or Discord or whatever the right platform, and you have an engaged users there. You're building community, right? And community can take many different forms. So for example, NewzDash, we have a Slack community of 3,000 members. We're very niche. We only work with news publishers, and we're within news publishers working with audience dev teams and SEOs, right? But we created our own kind of community. We have like 8,000 people on the newsletter, and we have like 3,000 people on our Slack channel, and they talk to each other. We just facilitated the community to come together, right? So these are kind of elements where you start building a loyal audience, right? By providing them value that exceeds them just coming to your site. Maybe you have an app, but app is like there's a higher friction, right? Because apps on our cell phones are becoming more or less like bookmarks like 10 years ago. I have like 10,000 bookmarks. I've only used 2 of them, right? And apps is like, so if there is no daily habituation pattern for your app, users will not use it, right? So you go to your Instagram to see all the new reels. You go to Facebook to see what your friends are up to, right? You go to maybe Twitter or LinkedIn to see the latest within your niche and what are the new stuff, right? So there must be an angle, right? Maybe it gives you the weather or it gives you what to wear today or it's like whatever, right? So apps are a little bit harder, but if you think about all these elements and how you can convert these one and done users to one of these different platforms to have like direct relationship with them, this is loyalty, right? Where people skip Google. So Google will not impact you as much. The algorithms go up, down, but you have a direct relationship with them. Facebook used to drive at a certain point of time prior to 2018, almost the same traffic or more than Google. And then it dropped by almost 80% over the years, right? So this kind of direct and loyal audience prevent these kind of like minimize the impact of the fluctuation of traffic.
Yeah, I mean, some great advice in there. I think one of the things that stood out to me in terms of like what I can do for BuzzStream, for instance, is maybe kind of keep doubling down on the newsletter, like the owned audience, and like figuring out something that's going to make you unique and keep, I like the way you put it, the one and done audience versus the repeat customers. I mean, it's interesting, like as you were thinking, I wrote this down because I think this plays into this kind of a problem, I guess, in the digital PR space where I think news publications, at least in the last few years, have been really pushing the gas on like top funnel content, kind of informational content, right? So you have less journalists talking about the news and more writing about, it might be an affiliate play, the best vacuum cleaners or something. Do you think now with AI that news publications are going to start stepping away from writing that top funnel content and focusing more on the news content that will bring these repeat customers back and less of the one and dones? Because when you said one and done, I thought of top funnel traffic. That's obviously one of the main versions of that.
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about that. So on one end, I think AI overviews and probably AI mode will take over Google search soon, right? Will kill informational content, will kill it, right? Or minimize the traffic to it to a great extent. And I see value in some information content and service content, right? Because the model, right? All the AI overviews and all this stuff were trained on this amazing content written by publishers over the years, right? So you get into catch 22 where no new quality content is coming in and you're left with spam, right? Because spam is cheap to produce and, people don't care. So eventually AI and news have to come to an agreement because news publishers have to be compensated for the content that they're creating where the AI models are trained on, right? You cannot just take all my content and train it and then send me nothing, right? So, but I think informational content will slowly not bring that much traffic, right? But I think top of the funnel. So on the other hand, is like, I think top of the funnel is still important because it introduces people to your brand, right? But now the gatekeepers are the AIs, right? So understanding, and they're not very generous with citations and stuff like that, right? Unless hey, what are the best news SEO tools out there? And they mention oh, NewzDash, Press, and similar web and stuff like this. Maybe they link to it if it's direct brand mentions. So I think it goes back to branding, right? Your homepage, there was a study by Will Reynolds talking about how the homepage is becoming now the most important asset. And the information you have on your brand, on your own website, becoming very important. Because if someone would talk about NewzDash, it's better to be NewzDash talking about itself and giving the features and all that stuff. So I think there is a still value, but top of the funnel will be much harder to get if AI overview become the gatekeepers and push everything down, or are going to take over the whole service.
Yeah, that's a great point, John. And I know that we're low on time here, so I want to get into a couple of just these quick hit kind of tactical questions I have based off your experience. What kind of trends are you seeing in US media? Are certain types of sites performing better than others these days?
I think it's a very broad question, but you can compare all sites against each other. It has to be vertical, right? Because for example, entertainment will always people are interested in entertainment and celebrity news and so on versus something very niche. So I think it's very broad, but I think the sites that focus on driving Google Discover traffic, they're doing very well. I have seen sites that are driving 90% of their traffic from Google Discover. And it's a double-edged sword kind of a thing, right? In one end, it's compensating all the traffic that you're losing in search and stuff like that. And it has a better X CTR, right? It's Google Discover is almost 4X the CTR you get from web, right? But at the same time, Google Discover is very volatile. You might getting traffic for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and then boom, it disappears overnight, and you don't know what you did wrong, right? So it's very interesting. And also Google Discover is an extension of search. So if you lose your status in search, you slowly lose your traffic and Discover. But so Discover we have seen more and more publishers are focusing on Google Discover. The other thing also, more and more publishers are trying to see how they can utilize AI to be more efficient, not to write the content, right? Writing the content, maybe parts of the content, like, hey, this is the analysis, not the analysis, like the market, data, write it for me in a paragraph, or like, play by play yesterday, the game, or something like this, writing shingles, part of the article. But the human voices and tone is very important. But they are discovering all the different ways. Can the AI grab all this data for me very quickly? Can they summarize it for me? Can they give me like the most important points that I should be discussing? So I call it like AI guided content, not AI content. So I think these are some of the publishers that are making a difference. And I think the most important part, going back to your earlier point, how publishers need to diversify their traffic, revenue, and audience. I think this is going to be extremely important in the next 12 to 18 months for publishers to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably extract it across all brands. It's just this idea of needing to diversify. All right, the last question I want to hit here is something, I'm sure all our digital PR listeners have been waiting for, but this idea of, that with this changing landscape in news publication, do you think news publishers are more or less likely to accept pitches from PRs these days?
I think news publishers are always looking for good content, regardless where it comes from, right? Let me put it this way. So if you are putting good content out there, or you're putting a news pitch, right, where, hey, I have this unique and exclusive data that I want to give you, and it fits their narrative and it fits what they're writing about and what they are interested about, I don't see any problem actually them grabbing this data. You are helping them, right? But if it's the same of everything else that everyone else pitched them, nothing unique about it. So I think when it's directed to news publishers as an editorial piece, not advertorial, right? I think it makes a huge difference. And then when it has data, it's like, oh, this is amazing data. Like we give a lot of data to news publishers as NewzDashers. Oh, we're seeing this change in the market and stuff like this. Here you go, the data, right? And a lot of times we just like had an interview with DigiDay the other day, right? And it was simply because we're putting a lot of data in LinkedIn and they saw it interesting and they wanted to talk to us, and they just published something about it a couple of days ago. So I think it's even better. They reach out to you and say, oh, you have an amazing data, dude. It's like, can we get some of that information? So I think short answer, if you have good editorial content and unique data that fits their narrative and what they're looking for, I think they will always take, not always, but they're very inclined to like talk to you and get that.
Yeah. And again, can hopefully extract this across everything. If you have a brand that is, really saying something unique, really doing something unique, you should hopefully have no problem standing out in the AI world. Yes, you have to diversify. Yes, you can't necessarily rely on Google search as you once did, but yeah, if you have the good story, if you have the brand, the interesting take on your brand or the interesting idea, you're going to stand out. So I think it's probably a good place to wrap up, John, here, give people some hope and some light at the end of the tunnel. So,
And Vince, we're going to be talking a lot about this AI and news and so on in the upcoming Nest. So this is our 5th year, and this is going to be the biggest actually. When we started, it was like 4 or 5 speakers. This year we have 20 speakers and a lot of sessions about like AI, and it's coming from different perspectives, from a business perspective, from a news perspective. Of search engines are coming and talking to us about like how AI and what are their plans. So happy to see you there and all your listeners as well. I can provide you with like a URL and maybe a discount code if you want to share it with your listeners.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. It's coming this October. Remind me the day.
21st and 22nd.
Cool. 2025 October, and it's in New York City, right?
No, it's virtual. You don't have to go
Oh,
anywhere.
it's virtual. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So it's virtual. You don't have to go anywhere. And you just log in and everything will be recorded for you as well. So you can replay it and watch it. So it can be a great.
Yeah. Fantastic. And it looks like it's not just US based news. as well. Like you have people from the Telegraph, Mail Online, and yeah. So yeah, universal, international, I should say. John, people can check you out on obviously your site, newsdash.com. You have a great blog, but also you're very active on LinkedIn. And for listeners out there, reminder, like, subscribe, share this kind of stuff, 5-star review, all that good stuff. But more importantly, if you have questions or comments about this stuff, please put it in, LinkedIn, on YouTube. I'm sure John will be more than happy to answer or elaborate on any of these topics that we talked about today. So John, thanks again so much. Hope you have a great weekend. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you at NES conference in October.
Thank you so much, Vince, for inviting me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully we connect in person soon.